Good morning, people. Good morning. Boy, the having a poor connection here. What's going on? Wow, just seemed just cut off. The screen just went black. Why is this happening? Trying to see if anything's covering the. Sorry about that, people. Thought this was going to be okay. Soon, when it turned on, the screen went black. Can't see anything. Let me try again. This is something else. Let's see. Good morning. Oh, okay. Okay, good morning, people. Good morning. Yes, I was having problems there with the camera. Yeah, okay, so I can see what's happening now. My apology. I've been having a lot of difficulty lately with doing live videos. Yes, there was someone just coming on and now they left. They thought there was no broadcast. But yes, there is a broadcast. Yes, good morning, folks. This is Spirit Journey. Today is Thursday, September 16th, 2020. Oh, I'm sorry, 2021. Excuse me, 2021. And the time right now is 3:57 a.m. in the morning. I hope you all are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Let me make sure that the mic is on. Okay, so the mic is on maximum. Yeah, I want to talk about two things. I want to get right in this conversation while I have enough airwaves to do this live stream without interruption. Yes, yesterday in the afternoon, I tried to do a live stream and I had interruption after interruption. And when I finally completed it, it didn't allow me to, like, with the when you first do the stream, you press this X button, and then you have to press these other buttons, and it didn't allow me to press the following buttons. So it was just a limbo, and so it couldn't upload. So I hope this one works. Well, I hope your day went well the other day, and I hope it goes well today. I want to talk about certain things. I want to talk about two main topics. The initial topic that I tried to upload yesterday, and that is about health. I was doing a video, about this conversation that I had with my primary care physician. And I needed to know firsthand how the current crisis, what to do if certain things, if I get sick from this particular, the big C. I'm going to refer to it as the big C. And so, okay, that was my timer. So now it's 4 o'clock. Yeah. So, I want to know what I need to do. I have all these protocols at home to help maintain my physical wellness. I have my essential oils, I have my salt inhalator pipe, I have my humidifier, oh, I said the essential oils. I try to eat a healthy diet. I try to drink enough water. Need to drink more, I think. Yeah, but I do what I know to do. I do my best. But sometimes you need to know what else to do when all those other things fail. I'm not a superhuman, and things could happen. So with fall is around the corner, and the cold season is nearby. It's going to be transitioning, and during the transition from hot to cold, I live in New York City, and so you have 4 distinct seasons. And when those seasons change, especially from warm into cold, um, it could be a little tricky on your body. And what do you have it? Colds, flus, things like that. Yes, good morning, viewer. Good morning. Welcome. Sorry for the interruption there. That I had problems uploading, getting this live stream going. Yes, I invite you to say hello in the chat room. Yes. So, anyway, as it pertains to health, so I said, I want to be ahead of the game, and with the season changing, and I've been hearing things on the internet, and I just want to play it safe, you know. I had a family member who did get sick, and they recovered. Um, some things you don't want to go too far on, because what they're telling you is, they want you to stay at home, not go to the doctors. And it's essential. Again, I'm not a physician. I'm not a research, a scientist or anything like that. I'm just a lay person. See, when you do things early and try to nip it in the bud, when you wait, things build up and you cannot fix it. And that's what almost happened to someone. It got to that point. I don't want to be one of those people. I want to be ahead of the game. So I needed to know what I need to do in case, in case I get tested positive for that big C. What am I going to do? Where to go? And many of you know that I am a veteran. And I don't particularly care for how I'm glad that they exist as an alternative where I can go in case I need intervention. But I need to know. I have to know what is out there for me. do I need to, could I go there to the VA hospital or go to a private physician somewhere else? I needed to know. So I did leave a message with my primary care physician's nurse. And because the doctor is, I guess, on vacation, they were away from the office. So I left the message with the nurse. Uh, it's over a week now, and no call. So I called yesterday, the doctor's office directly, and she picked up right away. And she was busy, with patients. She's like, I really can't stay on the phone. So I said, well, she said, you could call the nurse and leave a message with her. I said, well, I did. And she said, well, what number did you call? So I gave her the extension. And it was the correct extension. I said, well, I haven't heard from her. And, I'll be quick. So I asked her. Um, I did get tested and I got, was a negative. But what if in the future it is a positive? What do I do? Where do I go? Do I go there or go to a private physician? And what means of treatment do you have if I go to the VA hospital? I was told there is no treatment for the big C. And I kind of felt kind of dumbfounded. And I continue, listen. Um, she says, well, I said, well, I need to know, what I could use, what medication is out there, She says, well, it's important that you get vaccinated, and that she's telling me that she warned me before the importance of getting vaccinated. My last appointment, she was telling me, um, she wasn't really nice to me. She was really edgy. And yes, she had a mask and a face shield on. She didn't like the mask that I had on. I had one of the transparent ones that you can see the person smile. You need another type, real, cranky. But I just listened. I was polite. And I said, well, I heard about these two medications. First initial, I will not give them by name. I don't want this video censored. The first one starts with an I, and the second medication starts with a H. And she says, those are not things that they don't work, and it's not part of the protocols and blah 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 blah. Just real negative, like she's reading from a script. And I asked her about, well, what about? Oh, she said, well, I think she might have, again repeated about, you need to get vaccinated, and I said, well, but in case one still gets sick, where do I go? Do I go back? Where do I go? And so she says, well, okay, of course you come here, and we'll give you. I'll just use the initial. I mean the letter R. So I said, that medication. Oh, I just heard that it causes your organs to shut down and you can die. Oh, I don't know where you get your information. You got to be careful the websites you look at, blah, 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 blah. Now, in the background, when I'm talking to her on the phone, in the background is a video playing discussing about that particular medication and that it was a nurse. Um, yes, because I watch alternative news, and I was watching this channel, and they were interviewing a nurse. And this nurse worked, she's not from New York, but she got a job offer in New York last year. The nurses were getting $10,000 a week. You heard me right. $10,000 a week they were giving these nurses. Forget about what they were giving the doctors. She was getting $10,000 a week. So I think it was really hush hush money. They paid them a very good salary, but they witnessed a lot of things that were being done. Yeah, she was working in Queens, New York. She was working there in New York City, where the epicenter of all this big C was happening at. She witnessed a lot of deaths and a lot of malpractice. And she went to a lawyer to get advice because she wanted to expose, she wanted to expose what was going on. And she brings in a camera. And undercover, she took documentation on some of the things that were happening. Yeah, I heard about her last year. Oh, yeah. Um, and so she was guest again on this alternative news. And she talked about that particular drug that my primary care physician said that they use. Also, almost forgot. She said that the two medications that I inquired about, that they don't use it, and that specifically, none of the hospitals use it. None, zero. That sounds very, very spooky to me. You have millions of people that live in New York City, and to not have available those meds, I think it's criminal, in my opinion. It's just an opinion. Again, I'm not a sociologist, psychologist, and a doctor or uh, a scientist. I'm just a layman, just a New Yorker. And they don't have those protocols. They're inexpensive meds, very inexpensive. But these other medicine, the begins with an R, is very expensive, and it's a new med, and it causes, yes, hello people, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the live stream. The meds that they're recommending is causing a lot of deaths. They're given the meds, and again, I think by the time they give that particular medication, they're really not doing well. And it just messes up their system. And when they die from getting that medication, the hospital lies and says, oh, the big C got them. And then they get money, because it's a moneymaker when you claim that someone passes away due to the big C. A lot of them are dying because of the treatment. And you veterans out there, you know what I'm talking about. You talk to a real veteran of America, and they'll tell you the horror stories that happens at the VA hospital. Now again, I'm appreciative that they're there. If you need to get something emergency, you're not feeling well, because it is free to go to. But some of the things that they do, some of the things that they say is horrible. How you're treated is horrible. And even though they have laws that was passed by my beloved former president, The system that runs these hospitals are corrupt, and they seem to bring in these certain type of people to work there. I would fire them if I had the power to do it. Yep, I would. I think they should have more veterans that work in that hospital as doctors, as caretakers. Because the people that they get in, I question. I question. Oh, brother, you see the focus is going? Sorry, I better hurry up because I don't want. I need to finish this live stream. So the nurse, as I mentioned, I was a guest on this alternative news, has her proof, and she is publishing a book about her experience as a nurse in New York City during the Big C. And it's a matter of time that uh, the when all evidence comes out. See, you have certain people in power in New York City. New York City has a very big stronghold over it. It's a spirit of social decay that exists here. We have a rampant number of rats. Unbelievable. I go to Central Park. I mean, I never saw rats in Central Park. I've been going now for a while. It's a major park. And you see them running around. And in the street, rats out in the street in New York City. Garbage all over the place. Now, if it's a real epidemic here, and it's all about health and preventing the spread, don't rats cause spread of various diseases? But they're not handling it because it's a spirit of death over New York City. I'm saying it. It's a spirit of death, and death run the show here. You have people looking cuckoo that live here. You have out-of-towners, people from out of state flocking here, looking deranged. And the black population here in New York City, yeah, there are a lot of black folks in New York City, and a lot of them are begging. Like in Manhattan, that's where I live. That's the center of New York City, Manhattan. And it seems like all the dreads come right here to panhandle, to do their drugs. See, it's drug dependent. They're drug addicts. And you heard about in New York City that they brought in a whole slew of homeless people. Now, a lot of these homeless, are they really homeless or are they drug addicts? See, it's two different things. See, anyone could lose a home. I even lived in a shelter once, years ago. That's right. That's right. It's no secret. But I don't do drugs. I don't drink. Economics and the environment that I lived in, I had to leave where I live for my safety. That's what happened. Yep, I left that place with the clothes on my back and my purse. I persevered. I followed thank God for shelters. Thank God for clean shelters. Yeah, you first go into it looks like a gym. It's a it's like an intake center. It's hundreds of people in this room, and yes, rape does occur at these places. You have men disguised as women, and they rape some of the women there. I kid you not. I talked to a homeless woman once. This was maybe 6 years ago. I had an opportunity to. I was sitting at a bench, and this lady wanted to sit down, and she says, "Could I sit down next to you?" I'm thinking it's a free country, she doesn't have to ask me. But she was a homeless lady, and I guess her experience was, they don't want her to sit next to them. I mean, she didn't have an odor or anything like that. She was just another black lady that's kind of down and out, like many of us. And we talked, and she shared me her story. Yeah, she didn't start out homeless, but there's a lot of instability in New York City within the black community. And her siblings wanted her out. The mother had died, and the siblings wanted her out. So she traveled around, and back in those days, there was the government had offered this program. You pay $400 for this ticket, and the ticket is good for 1 year, and you can travel anywhere with it. It's a continual ticket, so it's like a pass. And you carry this pass, and you can go on any bus, like the Port Authority buses, those buses that go to different states. And you can just take it and you just go anywhere, and even Canada. And so this was encouraged to have the transit people to be able to move within seasons, because some of the people may have certain occupations that's seasonal. And so they move with the flow according to the market of the time, in the area, you know. So if it's a warm season, when it gets cold, then you move on to another location. And it's good for all the states, continental US and Canada. But the program was phased out, and I think when that phased out, if I understood right, when it phased out, so now you're stuck in one area. And so that flexibility and the ability for her to make money, um, I guess that's what motivated her to go to the shelter. And when she did, she got raped. Rape destroys people. It destroyed her mentally. So now you have a lot of mental instability in some of the homeless. Luckily, nothing like that happened. Um, yeah, the intake procedure, it took 8 days until they can find a more semi-permanent place. And they sent me to go to a woman's shelter, um, and it's supposed to be for like 1 year, maximum 1 year. I was there for 13 months. And when I came in, I had applied to um, this apartment, the apartment that I'm in right now. Yeah, I had gone to, I don't know, I don't remember exactly how it went, but I went to this organization, a black organization that handles veterans. They're located in Brooklyn. And they gave me valuable, valuable, valuable information. And honey, I used that information. They told me about, hey, there are apartments that you could apply for, and they advertise in these newspapers. Um, so somehow I got the newspaper, and I still have the ad. Therefore, the apartments that allow, with these new developments that you see in New York City, they're these new developments, private developments, are required to have X number of people of certain income levels. And so it's like a lottery. You apply for the application by postcard. You have a return address envelope attached with it. And then they send you your application, you fill it out exactly, and then you mail it back to them. And then they do a lottery on those applications, and mine was one of many that got selected. But that's not the end of the story. You have to pass the financial part. You have to make a certain amount to move in. And then when you think everything's clear, when you pass, just before you move in, they do it again. They they are determined to, they, they're very stringent. And I passed the second time, barely passed. So I'm very, very, very fortunate, people, for me to live in a beautiful high-rise luxury building. I love it. I really do. So that's why I'm very hesitant to move from this apartment, because it took me 13 months from the time I applied. It could have been maybe even 14 months, but between 13 and 14 months, because I had to um, fill out the application and send it in. Yeah, so I think I filled it out on a January, and then the following year in March, I moved in here. So it's all, yeah, over 12 months. And so this place is very special to me. And so I don't want to give up something that took me so long to get. And yes, there are people out there who've been waiting for, applying for different apartments in the cities, and they may have to wait years. Like, I'm really referring to what they call the projects or government housing. They may have to wait years. And I did apply for those too. Yeah. Yeah, I applied for the projects. And there's a lot of politics in the projects, a lot of politics. And they are, well, I'm not even going to go there. I was going to say something, but let me drop that. So you, so even though like New York City is changing drastically, it has a death spirit over it. And I told you guys over a week ago that someone tried to jump me. And it's someone from the neighborhood, homeless, drug addict type. It's really sad. And this is what I live with. I'm surrounded by filth. For whatever reason, we have a mayor that's not picking up the garbage. I mean, I don't know how it's getting like this. You have many people who left New York City, so how could you have more garbage? It's just one of those things. So I really want to stay. I really, really do. And I'm telling myself, even after that attemptive, person that tried to jump me, um, I want to do whatever it takes to keep me here. I want to stay. Where else could I go to? I mean, I did tell someone that. Where else could I go to? Um, and the guy that I'm talking to over the phone is saying, don't be like his mother, who's living in California and is paying, what's that, $400 for a two-bedroom apartment, and the area has gone down real bad. Says, don't get like her. If you have to move, move. See, I think that's the purpose of all this violence, because they want you to move. They want you scared. Oh, I'm scared. Yeah, they want you afraid, people. And so they want to uproot people like myself who got a good deal in apartment, near everything. I don't need a car. Everything's in walking distance. Hello. I get to walk to a beautiful, beautiful park, walking distance, and don't need a car. I am so fortunate. I am so fortunate and blessed to live in most, the greatest city on the planet, New York City, the heart of the city. It's beautiful. But you have people who are doing social engineering who want you out. And so they want the wealthy out, bring in a lot of illegals here, and to encourage more drug abuse in the black community, to be used as scaremongers amongst the people. Yeah, it's horrible. And you could, those people with common sense, you can see what they're doing. These are social engineers who are exploiting the weaknesses that human beings have. They're exploiting it to the T and are really behind this whole plandemic, as I call it. It's a plandemic out there. It's horrible, horrible, people. Yeah, those people, give me, please type in a one if you can hear me and if you understand what I'm saying. This is not a one-way conversation. Let me know that you hear me, that you understand where I'm getting at. This is a warfare upon you, upon all of us. It goes beyond just race. It's not just race, but they use the race card. They use the history of a person's background to sabotage, to cause discouragement, to cause fear. And now they're using tactics to make people not know what they are. A boy or a girl. That sounds very fundamental to me. Excuse me. It's very fundamental. You don't know if you're boy. So how is it that it's only certain types of people that don't seem to know whether they're a boy or a girl in New York City? Why is it always black men? Why is it? I'm calling it out. I think it's the what do you call it, these so-called treatments, that you give little children, and you need these shots to go to school. Why is it that it's only a certain demographics that seem to have this gender question in them? And it's not just their gender identity, it's their behavior. You believe what you want to believe about yourself, and your orientation is your business, not my business. But when you're out on the street getting crazy, yelling at people, and saying words of violence against people, then it's my concern. It's our concern, what's going on. And I'm very sad about this. I'm very sad. They're teaching people, I don't know whether you call this teaching. I call it more of a program. They are programming certain people to behave and act a certain way. You think you'll be able to get a job if you're in a mindset like what theirs is? No one would want to hire you. They're unclean. They're abusing drugs. They're needles in the street. I showed a cop, I told a cop, hey, there's a hypodermic needle right off the curb. Anybody can take it and just jab people. I saw one in the park. This is it's a sickness that's happening to New York City, primarily in Manhattan. It's all over. It's severe. And to require people to have to wear this particular thing on their face is causing low blood oxygen in people. Little children are getting this, required to wear this thing on their face. Don't you think people, this is going to affect their brain development? Or how about communication? If your face is covered, how are you going to learn how to speak? Because part of learning how to speak, you're reading the lips too, and learning how to position your mouth and your lips to say certain words and syllables and all that and vowels. You have to read it. How do you read expression? Whether someone's angry or sad or whatever, read emotions. That's going to be hampered. See, this is the destabilization of a society. That's what's happening. Yeah, I know I'm kind of getting off the subject, but see, everything affects everything else. That's another main thing here we're going to talk about. Everything affects everything else. And it's not about wellness and health. It's about social control. That is what it's about. So yes, um, the VA hospital uh, will not even provide that medication. And I'm wondering what my doctor, what social media she's watching to not even have her investigate. What about that nurse who got yeah, she's a smart cookie. She went to a lawyer first to find out what she can or can't do to get data to prove what is being done to the people. And that particular hospital that she worked is a hospital where you have a lot of immigrants, lot of poor people. So uh, they record, they would be the ones to go to these hospitals because they take people because these private, not private, these government hospitals have to take you regardless of your status, whether you have your papers or not. They have to take you. So it's a whole system to actually pull down America. The hospitals are um, allowing these things to occur. It's overtaxing the system, and they want that to happen. So they're getting it very well. They're getting all these benefits and be illegal. And whose jobs are they taking? They're taking your job, black man and woman. I'm saying it. I'm saying it. They're targeting your neighborhood. And and I tell you this. See, I admire see I was raised with people. I mean, I should not say. I lived in um, let's see. It was junior high school when I started to meet uh, a large number of people from all over the world. I loved it. I loved meeting all different types of people. I liked them and they seemed to like me. But as an adult, who I thought were my friends were not my friends. It seems like they hire their own, but they don't hire you. Why is that? And the black community doesn't seem to be aware that you should learn to love yourself. No matter what your race, religion, orientation, whatever, you have to love yourself. Love yourself. They know you don't love yourself, and they don't want to hire you. And then you have some ignorant black people who say, "Oh, there's no such thing. There's no systemic racism." I do believe there's systemic racism, but it's more than so-called whites against blacks. It's black against black. It's a mindset. It's a mindset that says I'm not supposed to uh, be educated. I'm not supposed to have certain interests because of what I am. It's a mindset of lack. It's a mindset of I'm not important. I'm not loved. That's why these guys walk with their pants hanging down. You think these people love themselves? You think that they really love themselves? And so all these other new immigrants, they see how you behave. How is that the new immigrants have enough common sense to hire their own? Why do you think they're doing better? See, we're being brainwashed not to hire our own. Even some of the successful blacks, they have no heart. But see, I understand them. You feel like if you pander to your own, that you're acting like what the bigots do. But see, everybody else is hiring their own. Hispanics in New York City hire Hispanics regardless of their race. Asians hire Asians. Whites hire whites. And you know, there's virtually no black businesses. I mean, there are blacks from the Hispanic community, but black English-speaking people, you don't see them here. Now, you may have Jamaicans that primarily live in Brooklyn. They may have a bake shop. But this part of town, they're none. They're not here. They're not here. There used to be a black woman up the road, she and her daughter. They're no longer there. They just lasted a couple of months. I did go in there and I purchased something. But we're being extinct. We're being extinct in our own country because of it's more it's many reasons. We're praying against ourselves. We're predators against our own community. We sell drugs to our own neighbors that cause us death. All these things. You need to start waking up and start loving yourself. I always said this. You need to start loving yourself. That is the first line of defense in any war. A sense of preservation, self-preservation. You have to love yourself. So yes, so what I did, okay, to get back on this, the original topic with regard to health and this pandemic, as I call it, and the big C, that I had to take, because I love myself. Spirit Journey loves herself. And I want to do the best I can to promote my mental and physical wellness. So I needed to get that information, that intelligence from my primary care physician, what treatment they have to offer me, and the only protocol is that when you have to be hospitalized because of the big C, that they give you that medication that begins with the letter R, and that particular med causes organ failure. Then you die, and then the hospital puts on your death certificate that you died of that big C, and they collect beaucoup d'argent from you, from the insurance company. That's what it's all about. You have a lot of sinister people that work in these hospitals. They're sinister. And I believe it's a whole network. Everything is a network. Everything is tied together. It's a multi-layer takeover. Even the apartments. It's a network of developers here in New York City. And they all know each other. And they network. All the hospitals network. Everything's connected. And they work together, in my opinion. They all work together to create a theme. And right now, it is a death theme that is plaguing New York City. Pestilence like you wouldn't believe. But yes, we can take back our city into wellness. This is uh, one of the wealthiest cities on the planet, and they're creating a death cult here. Yes, they are. Well, so I decided after getting the information that I needed that the only protocols that they have to offer me is when I get deadly sick, that they give me that med that has shown to cause organ failure. So I contact, well, in one of my what do you call it, alternative news that I've been watching, they gave information about America's frontline doctors, this website. And they have, if you need to get treated. So yeah, you do have to pay for it. You know, they have the website, and then if you want to get a doctor and to be treated, it costs $90. I know a lot of people may not have $90, but honey, for those of you who do have it, to protect yourself. See, I feel like I have no choice. I feel I have no choice. My doctor said none of the hospitals offer that medication. So it's a monopoly on this medicine that begins with the letter R. It's a monopoly. They don't want to promote the other medicine, which has been on the market for about 60 years. I'm saying the number 60. 60 years. Proven effective for different things. At least they know it doesn't kill people when used correctly. It's been on the market for years. So you're going to have an experimental drug. You're going to experiment on that. You want someone to experiment with your body. You want someone to, thank you for giving me the thumbs up. Thank you guys. Or gals, you know. You know, it's a New York expression, guys. You know, that's just an expression. But yeah, you guys, thank you. Thank you for your support. Yeah, so you want me to put something that's experimental, and they aren't even listening to it. Did you see the video online when they asked the what do you call this, the not the secretary, what do you call it, the press secretary. The press secretary is a lady, and she was asked uh, about the man, if there's a mandate for the staff members who work in the White House, and how many of those people are required to take the jab. And you know what she said? I can't give that information. Hello, people. See that? And they don't wear the mask. You notice that other videos, they only put on the mask once they get on stage. I've seen I've seen a few videos showing that. And it was like a large crowd. There's over like 10 people. Could be maybe 20. They were on stage, and the camera is always on, folks. And once they were setting up on stage, one by one they was put on their masks, and then the live video. Well, that camera was rolling, and it showed what happened behind the scenes. See, they know it's a farce. They know it's a farce. They know. And so, but they want you afraid. They want you to get the jab. How many of those people are required to wear a mask? How many of them are required to get the jab? See, these people in office, They know the statistics. They have access to databases. And you have this other layman YouTuber who studied the numbers regarding the pandemic and who's dying of what, a lot of things. So I feel that what's happening at these large institutions or government institutions, that it's a plan against you. I don't trust my doctor. I do not want to go back to that doctor. She's almost like scolding me. Like, how dare you watch some alternative media giving you this information, giving you the truth? That's what it is. They're telling the truth. So that's why I checked out that alternative news suggestion, that organization, America's Frontline Doctors, and they got banned on YouTube. Remember last year, around in June or July, you had various doctors at DC, and they all shared their story as medical physicians who treated the big C successfully with these particular protocols. And then they banned the video. And so initially it was on YouTube, and then you didn't see it anymore. And I had gone to this alternative news outlet that I've been watching for about 5 years now. And that particular organization, speaker, he's banned also from YouTube on all social media. So he has his own website. Yeah, so I've been watching him. Infowars, infowars.com. Yeah, I won't say the name of the individual. Yeah, he's a little over the top, but he presents valuable information. He has guests who are in the field. They interview doctors, nurses, and they're telling their account of what they see. And then even my experience. I had taken a video to share it, and they pulled it from my channel and then said that I'm promoting, things that aren't true. And then they punished me, and they blocked my videos, for my being able to upload videos for 2 weeks. This is the second or third time they did this to me. Why? Why? Why did they block it? Why did they? But it's a punishment. They could just say, hey, you can't have that type of content. We're going to pull it. Who are they to say what information? Isn't this a free country? It wasn't promoting violence on anyone. It was an alternative medicine. So they're telling you, we want you to have a certain medical protocols done upon you. We don't want you to have information. We want to keep you ignorant. How dare they do that? See, I hope people are gathering data against them, and that a new Nuremberg trial occurs and arrests all those people. Those people who run the social media forums should be thrown in prison, put on trial for crimes against humanity. When you take a planet, deny them information that could save your life, punish you from being able to make money, because remember, some of them, they even had power to say you can't use like a PayPal anymore. So what they do, they cause you to not be able to pay your bills, become homeless. You don't have money for medicine, and it can cause death. What they're doing is so criminal. So yeah, so I have to wait from 2 to 7 days, 2 to 5 days, I think they said, to get a notification from the doctor, and that they'll interview me and see what the best protocols for someone like me. And so I'm glad I did this choice. Yeah, because see, winter is coming, and the variant, as they call it, is getting more aggressive. And in the colder months, your immune system is not as strong. And again, because you're not outside as much, you don't make as much vitamin D. So people, um, it's advisable, discuss with your doctor about vitamin D3 if you need vitamin D3. I know as a woman of color, I better get my vitamin D3 if I'm not outside because it's harder to make vitamin D. Your skin, when you're in the sun, your body produces vitamin D3. It's an essential nutrient to stay alive. It's essential. It has um, a lot of effects if you don't get enough. Yeah. So yeah, I want to utilize. I gotta help myself, and I'm not. I don't want to wait to the last minute because I feel people. I feel very strongly that something big is going to happen the end of this year. Something is going to pick up. And yes, the whole, like, to go into certain restaurants now, they require you to have this pass to bring in. They're going against the Americans of Disability Act. You cannot tell someone that they got to do this or that, you know, and they have certain health conditions. And privacy, OSHA, privacy is another law, OSHA, and the Nuremberg laws. You cannot force someone. You have, it has to be informed consent. You're going to hear that word a lot. Informed consent. Informed consent. You need to have informed consent in order to comply with this new means of treatment. Because when you're not informed, then you don't know what the possible outcome. And it is essential to have informed consent so that you are and informed and um, educated about the possible side effects of a particular protocol upon your body. What could happen if you do X, Y, and Z? And what's also essential in all this is that are the people who are telling you what to do, are they doing it? Are they taking the jibby jab? Are they social distancing? Are they wearing the thing over their face? And if the answer is no, those people who are trying to force you to do it, they are going against the Nuremberg laws. And if you know that to be true, that they're not following it, you have a right to speak on and say, hey, you're not complying with the Nuremberg laws. If you're telling us that we're required, but you're not, this goes against the law. And by law, I'm not a lawyer either, just sharing my understanding on something, and that you have a right to refuse. You have the right to say no. You're telling me and you're not. Your body is your choice. And informed consent, people, you better get informed consent. And when they coerce you and say, if you don't get this jibby jabby jab, you're going to get fired. That is a big no no, people. Big no no. Or some people are even uh, bribing you with money. I saw this one thing that they give you certain weapons if you get the jibby jab. Other gifts. People, don't you see what's going on? Why all the extreme measures for you to take this protocol? Don't you think there might be something to it? Why? If it's all about health, if it's all about health, how come they're not cleaning the streets? And they're having the garbage pile up and they have rats running the city. That is a direct uh, hazard to your wellness. But they're not doing anything. And in fact, they're making it worse. So, people, it's not about health. Why do they let GMOs in the food? Why they put all these chemicals in the food that is causing all this sickness of body? It's not about health, it's about control. They want to control your body, they want to control the outcome of that body. And you have scientists out there, Dr. Frankenstein is doing experiments over you. They're doing a lot of things upon you. You're being acted as a guinea pig. You're being used as a guinea pig. That's what's happening. And not over my body. Uh-uh. Your personal wellness is your choice. You have a right to go to any doctor that is willing to uh, do treatment for you. It's your choice. And if you want a particular med, you should have the right to choose what medical protocol you want in your body. You have the right to say no. You know what else what that nurse was saying? That nurse said that they took this one person and then they drugged them to incapacitate them, and then they gave them the jibby jabby jab, and then they died. Yes, they're doing things to coerce and force people to incapacitate a patient so they could sneak in the jibby jabby jab and then they die. That is what's happening. And this lady, she wrote a book about her experience. Yeah. So I'm going to go on to the next topic. I was on that one long enough. Yeah, my second topic about politics. Well, again, the medical is politics, but specifically, I wanted to talk about what's happening in California. Yeah, I found out that he didn't win. The guy, was it Larry Nadler? What I forget his name. Larry. But either way, um, he was running for governor of California. That's the biggest state, California. And there's never been a black governor in California. In fact, historically, blacks weren't allowed in California. Blacks weren't allowed out west. There were laws. So it's really something that now, after all these years, yeah, he ran a successful, a good race, but he didn't win. But he may not have won this particular battle, but he said he's going to win the war. Yes, a lot of corruption in California, and the opponent of him, who kept his seat, his governor's seat, um, he has the current media on his side. See, media now is being used against the masses to dumbify, to program you to do things that you don't think you would ever do. So, what I wanted to talk about, yeah, I'm new with Larry, the man who was running for governor. Um, I mean, I heard things about him, a lot of name calling. It's really interesting. This is just my opinion, my perspective on things. Now, interesting that he was being called some choice names that Uncle Tom. Okay, and Uncle Tom is uh, a put down directed to black people who uh, pander to white people. In essence, so what about Obama? Who was his support team? But again, it's something really. It's really something. When see, I have a lot of mixed feelings about certain things, politics as it comes to the black population. I'm born and raised here. My parents are born and raised here, and I'm a veteran. My father's a vet. And yes, I've experienced a lot of racism, and it's very painful. And racism can come in different forms. They don't have to use the N word. And yes, I do believe that there's systemic racism in America. They don't want black people to succeed. But if you succeed, they want you to succeed on their terms. But it's a social control that's over everyone. See, there's different levels of oppression. But I believe this is a prison planet for all people on this planet. But yes, in America, it has its history. And yes, it's very strong. But the type of, let's see, I, I feel that the argument, see, it's a system of socialism that they want to establish in America. And they're using and pandering, in my opinion, the poor black population, or poor-minded black people, or black people who are in a pity party. And sometimes I act like a pity party. Sometimes I act like all those things. See, I have two aspects to myself because of the history that I been through, and then the other aspect of, I like myself. I like me. And at one time I hated myself, but I learned that, hey, what makes me different than anybody else? And I couldn't find anything because, see, we all die. We born and then we die. It's what we do in between life and death that distinguish us. And when I learned that, I said, I'm not going to worship anybody. Worship yourself. Love yourself. And love your neighbor too. Yes, love your neighbor. See, I think people who are into hurting other people, they're fearful. They live in fear. And yes, you have rich people who are fearful. And you have poor people who are fearful. There's a system that is controlling the rich and the poor on the planet. And in America, the card that they use is this particular card called racism. But it's also free will too. See, the system is making you feel like giving up. Not everybody gives up. You have some people, they say, okay, uh, they are who they are. But they say, in spite of racism, that you can still study, do your homework, you can still bathe, you can still comb your hair, you can still do your lawn, you can still do things. See, they want you to feel like a victim. And once you feel like a victim, you lost the war. But see, in spite of these things that they want you to feel about yourself, and the social program that does go on in America and around the planet. It is your personal choice on what you do with what's thrown at you. So someone throws a lemon at you, you make lemonade. That's what this person told me when I was in the military. Yeah, she was one of the few black people in my department. And I don't know how she survived because we were surrounded by all white people. And some of them were very nice, and some of them weren't. And after a while, it gets to you. Racism could be very subtle, but you feel it. And I felt it at times in the military. I met some nice white people in the military, and I met some people who were real scumbags. And I met black people too who were nice, and some who were really scumbags too. You have people, and sometimes people are good, and sometimes people are bad. So you know where the real war is? The war is not outside. The real war is in between your head. The real battle. The real battle that I face every day is not white people, is not black people, is not Hispanics, but myself. When I get depressed and want to give up and don't do anything with my life, that is my fault. Yes, yes, you do have outside forces that influence you. And yes, they're doing it deliberately. Yes, this whole pandemic, yes, is to get at us, to make us fearful, to make us angry, and to make us physically sick. But I have a choice on how I respond. And with the election that happened in California, let me share you something like what he was saying. Uh, again, I don't agree with all his politics. He doesn't believe that racism is systemic, but I do. But yet, doesn't matter what matters is what you do with what you know and believe. He was telling the audience that his father moved to California in the 1940s, and he was a poor guy, and he worked 2, 3 jobs. I think he cleaned toilets, and he saved his money, and he started a cafe in the, I think he said South something, South Central, I think he said. Okay, I think that's the black section of California, I'm sorry, in LA, Los Angeles. And that's how he got a start. Really, that's how he got started. And I guess, yeah, he said that his mother was a stay-at-home mom. His father worked, the mother stayed at home and took care of the kids. And that's what my parents did. I'm one of 7 kids. I think Larry, he just has one sibling. I have 6 other siblings. I come from a large family, and my grandparents came to America from the Caribbean. 2 of them were clearly immigrants. They didn't speak the language. They spoke French. One of them were multilingual. They spoke about 5 languages. And then that's on my mom's side. On my father's side, um, before they came here, they were living on St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands. St. Croix was bought by the U.S., and the U.S. said, they put the flag up, and they said anyone who salutes the flag are U.S. citizens. And then they came to the U.S. mainland. That's how it worked with me. Now, these were hardworking people. They were poor. They were just regular, back then in the 1920s. most people are poor. Most people lived on farms or things like that. Um, they raised little like in the West Indies they had sheep. You know, when I looked on the records, my great grandmother she uh, herded sheep or something like that. I said, wow. So these are rich people, and met many Europeans, and there wasn't as many Asians that came to the U.S. because there was a ban on them. But the people who did come, they primarily came from the Americas, Europe. Okay, where else? Yeah, that's primarily it. Um, and most people are poor, and they came to New York City, and they had kids. And back in those days was to be American. It was about assimilating, learning the language and the culture. It was about getting into society, you know, the mainstream society, to be able to have the American dream, to do better for your children. That's what the motivation was all about. Millions of people left the countries and moved to the North America. I think it was in the 1880s to the 1930s or 40s was the largest influx of people from other countries to America. These weren't rich people, and and so with my father's household was more challenging because he had tons of siblings, and they lived in a little apartment, and they lived at the time when the what do you call it, the Depression. Yeah, one was born in 1929, one was born in 31 of my parents, and then the Depression hit. What they call the Depression. So they were youngsters at the time, but they remember, you know, things were scarce, and um, sometimes they were hungry. Um, but they were strong people, though. Somehow they survived, and they went to school. Yeah, back in those days, they went to college in the 1950s. Yeah, early 1950s, they entered college. Back in those days, that's what people did. At least in New York, they went to school because it was told you go to college, you know, and you learn an occupation. And of course, back then in those days, in 1930s, 40s, 50s, there's a lot of racism in America, in New York, and in the South. But you know, they did what was required. They knew how to save money. They were not rich people, but and again, people they did the what do you call it? What do you, trying to think of the term. Like back in those days, it wasn't so much about getting things, you know. It was about survival, having food, and a place to live. They weren't preoccupied with what sneakers are out there, or what else? Certain appliances. Yeah, all that. You know, the things like appliances and certain types of foods came out after World War II. It seemed like the real war started uh, after World War II, and people were becoming socially programmed because now you have a television set. Yeah, first it was just radio. Everybody listened to radio, and then television hit in the 1950s, you know. It was first black and white, and then you had the color TV. But yeah, so people weren't being bombarded with um, these items to buy, you know, but then these commercials and made you feel you have to have this. So it was a seduction, which is a type of witchcraft that was placed over people. And also, now that you have TV, you can show what different people look like. You can start making movies to say, hey, look at these people. These are inferior people. These are bad people. Oh, let's look at these people. These are good people. Everybody should look and act like them. Oh, let's get a car. Let's be somebody. So it became a world of I want, I want, I want. And so um, it wasn't about having good food, being healthy. Because, initially, most people, 70 something percent of people back in the day lived on farms. People made their own food. They grew their own food, I should say. They grew their own food. They hunted their own meat. And then you have a smaller percentage that live in big cities, that live in cities. The newer immigrants, they moved into big cities. And then eventually, many of them moved out of the city in what they call the suburbs. But then now, people were getting disconnected from the land. They no longer wanted to work on farms or with animals because that's beneath them now. And they felt having an office job was something to be reached, right? People stopped knowing how to make things. People used to sew their clothes. My mother sewed my clothes to save money. Yeah, you had women who knew how to sew. Some sewed by hand and some sewed by sewing machine. And they cooked their own food also back then. Now, people don't cook their own food. Yeah, you have all these shows on television, on cable TV, on the cooking channel, different cooking channels. But yet, more and more people aren't cooking their food, even though you have more of these cooking shows, more and more obesity, right? You're getting seduced. This television is seducing you. Now we have computers and internet, which is also seducing you to believe certain things. Who would have thought that social media owners of it will say, you can't share that information. We're going to remove it from your social media, and if you continue, we're going to shut down your channel. Could you believe that? Doesn't that sound like a police state? Doesn't that sound like a police state? This is a new police state. And so going back with my folks, they're not perfect, and I definitely wasn't perfect. They saved their money. My father went to school. My father was raised in a household. He had a lot of siblings, but his father wasn't always around. There and not there, there and not there. But primary was just the mother. But in spite of that, he still graduated. In fact, okay, back in those days, in the 1950s, the what do you call it? When it was mandatory serving in the draft. Yeah, that's what they call it, the draft. It was mandatory to go into the military once you reach 18. Yep. So he was in college, and he was dating my mom at the time. He gets a notice that he had to go into the military. Yes, he did. And he was in college at the time. I think he was in college. Or could it, let's see. Oh, yeah, yeah, he was in college and then he had to go to the military. But he graduated. And let's see, they were dating for, let's see, I think a year. He gets drafted. And then a year into him being in the military, my dad and my mom marry. And then he gets out, and then he continued his education. Oh, and he had kids. Yeah, he I don't know, because see, he has his degrees on the wall in the my mom's house. And I was counting against how was he able to graduate so soon? It was amazing. So here he got, I'm one of 7 kids. He was still in school when I was born. I think he was doing student teaching or something like that. Yeah. So imagine, you got 7 kids. Oh, and also he worked. Yeah. He went to school. How did it go? He worked in the daytime, and then at nighttime, he went to school. And he had to, back in those days, they didn't have computers, and he had term papers, and things had to be footnoted, all that. And I think my mom typed his reports. I think my mom typed it up for him. But you still had to do research and all that. So he had 7 kids, a job, a full-time job, and he went to school full-time also. And he graduated on time with his undergraduate degree. And then he got his master's degree in 2 years with all those kids. And again, my mother didn't work. I should say my mother was a stay-at-home mom. That's what people did back in the day. The man worked and the woman stayed at home and took care of the kids. And he graduated with his master's. And then he got a third degree, a post graduate degree, his certification. I guess it's almost like a doctorate in his field. Yeah, I don't know how he did it. I looked at the dates when he started and he yeah. I said, wow. I was impressed. I told my mom, I said, wow, I'm impressed. And she looked very proud. Yeah. Um, I mean, I didn't get along with my father, but that which he did well, he did excellent. So I have to commend him for that, you know. Dad, my father did pass away 12 years ago. So honor to you because some of the things you did teach were very good, you know. So I commend you and thank you for that example. And yes, Dad, I graduated too with my master's. I wanted to give up. I did, but I did complete it. So thank you for that example. I wish I would have known that. I didn't realize back then that the years it took, for him to graduate, that he graduated early, you know. So it can be done. And so now, what Larry was saying, the guy that was running for governor, um, so him too. See, that generation uh, knew about, see, the parents stayed together. And so Nala was saying the real enemy of what's happening in the black community is that the mothers aren't married to the guys. They have children, but they're not living together. They're not married together. And that's a big problem. It's a big problem. Back in his day, 70% of the people were married. But now only like, what's that, 20%? 20, what was that? I'm sorry. He said, let me rephrase it. Now, 70% of the, was even higher. It could have been even in the 90s, 80s or 90s. Well, the mass majority of us do not come from household where the parents of the children are living together as a family. They're not together. That would screw up a lot of stuff. So you got a parent here, another parent there. Stability. You need stability. And that's what's really plaguing. And they said when the welfare system came about, that encouraged mothers not to marry the guy and to kick out the guy so they can get benefits. The system was designed to do this. And white people who fall under the same trap, the same thing happens to them. It's not just black people. I'm not saying that everybody that is not living together as husband and wife with their kids fail. I'm not saying that. But it makes it that much harder. My parents lived together. My parents were married. And my mother stayed at home and took care of the kids. How come we're not able to do it now? Because, see, that's where the feminism came in. See, they take a good thing and it's perverted. There's nothing wrong with women's rights movement, but it was something, it was a weapon that was used to make women feel dissatisfied and think that men have it over them. And yes, on some levels, yes, they do. They did have something over. Yes, they did make more money than women. Yes, at one time, only men were allowed to own property and get inheritance and not the woman. Yes, all those things are true. But it was a weapon, just like the Civil Rights Act, the race riots were used, and it was all to destabilize. The women's movement was to destabilize the American family as a whole, to force women out the house, to make women feel that they need to get a job outside of the house and make money. And nothing wrong working outside of the house. But it's going to jeopardize the stability of that family when no one's taking care of the kid. When you have to get a babysitter, a nanny, to watch over your kid while you're at work and your husband's at work. Did you know that it costs more money for a woman to go to work and the husband to go to work and they get like a nanny or something? They spend more money. They're not saving money. They're spending more money for that um, wife to get a full-time job outside of the house. Yep. When you count dollar for dollar, it costs money for women, because a lot of women, they buy all these new clothes, pantyhose, shoes, suits. Then the cost of the nanny or the babysitter costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars a week. So you buying all your new clothes and transportation, folks. Let's say the husband or wife work in different regions and you need two cars. Now you got to pay for that car. Now you got to pay for that gasoline. Hello. So they deceived the woman because they wanted her out the house so then they can start brainwashing the children with that stupid TV set. And the program, television is a program. It's to program those little children. Look at those nasty cartoons that they have out now. You think kids are confused? You bet they are watching that crap on those TV shows. So now the television is a babysitter, brainwashing your kid, making the kid be things oriented, that it's about buying things, looking important, having a fancy place, all these things. But what happened to the American family? It's dissolved. The quality of the education is dissolved. So they make jokes about this guy, Larry, who ran for the black guy that ran for governor of California. They called him, what's that, a black white supremacist. Why did they say that? Because he's not saying the narrative about black people. Now, in part, I believe some of the narratives about what's happened in the black community, but it's what I want in spite of that. See, people like Nadler, you may not see the black population is taught to dislike people like Larry because he doesn't fit the narrative of the poor black guy. Yeah, his parents were poor, like many families were poor in the 1940s. But he knew about hard work and to save money and to focus and start his own little business in his community, people. But see, now they want you to feel like a victim. So again, going back again, keep going, getting off the subject. So, see, they want you to be prejudiced. This is where the real racism comes in. That they don't want you to see successful black men, that in spite of racism, he still stands strong. You don't have to believe in everything he says. It's not about believing everything about him, what he stands for, but what he did do. He became what he became. He was a radio announcer, I found out. He speaks well. He doesn't walk around like a victim. He doesn't walk with his pants sagging down. What if, let me go further with this. Okay. Let's say today, let's say you have, let's say the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were alive today. Let's say he was alive right now. But let's say he was uh, 40 years younger than he really is. Yeah, he's the same. He would have been the same age as my mother. He's actually 1 month older than my mother. But let's just say he's about 45 years younger than he really is. And let's say he was running for uh, the governor of California. Don't you think they would have, what would they call him? What would they have called Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? He graduated from school at the age of 15. He graduated from college. He got his doctorate. Hello. He was well read. He had a stay-at-home mom. A wife. Yeah, they weren't rich. And he had children. I think he had 5 children. He was just starting out when he was 27 years old when he was approached to be a part of the Civil Rights Act. He didn't ask to come in. They approached him, the system, the black community. But let's say he were alive now. What would they call him? What do they call black men who have a doctorate, who speaks well? They call them an Uncle Tom because he's poised. He wore a nice business suit. You saw how well he dressed, right? He was a successful man of his day. He wasn't anything really special in the sense that, he went to college. He's limited what he can do in essence because he did live in the South. He lives in a segregated community. By law, things were segregated. But he did what he could do amongst his own. And he would just be another black preacher, but he had his doctorate in theology, okay? And just be mainstream black of his day. But bring him back now, 50 years later, 60 years later, in the current environment, what would if he were alive today, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose side would he be on? This is very important, people. If he were in California, who would he be speaking on behalf of? Whose side would he be on? Whose side? If he were a true man of God and about righteousness and concerns, yes, he's wrong. Yeah, exactly. Hi, cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. You bet MLK would be rolling in his grave. Yes, good morning. Yeah. Yeah. You got to be honest, people. See what they want you to believe now. What if the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were alive today and were younger than his actual age, who would have been 92 years old? What would he be saying about what's going on in the government with the marching in New York City? What was being done? See, the MLK, he at the end he did say that they were going to do civil rights. What do you call it? Civil disobedience. But it was a civil disobedience based on righteousness, based on exposing the corruption that was happening. See, remember at the end, he was going against the union. Something about the union. He wanted to speak on behalf of the men, the black men that were in the union. I think they were in the union. Something about the union, and they didn't like that, the system, and so at that point, that's when they killed him. They didn't kill him when he was saying, black and white holding hands. No, when he spoke against what was happening with these to either to make it union, or it was something about it, but it was about labor. The argument was about labor, and he was speaking out and exposing what was happening. I think it was the sanitation people who picked the garbage. I think it was about that. Those of you who know, you can elaborate in the comment section. In the in the comment section about what details you know. And that's when they killed him. What would MLK be saying about what's happening in New York City with the garbage and stuff and the people beating up people? No, Martin Luther King was a very intelligent man. Wouldn't he be like a elder? Was it his name? Elder Larry Elder. Wouldn't he be like that? He wore a nice suit. He spoke well. Came from hardworking folks, respectful, a good orator. And you know who spoke against him? Obama. Obama spoke against him. See that? Black against black. See that? Black against black. Yeah, I would think so. Okay, that's what Cheeseburger said. Yeah. Who does he kind of look like? I mean, let's be real. You get MLK, and what he looked like. He was an educated black man with a doctorate degree. Mainstream, just like Larry Elders. A mainstream conservative black man. That's what he was about. You forget that. Look at him. Look at those pictures of him. Those archived pictures. What did he dress like? He wore a hat, a beautiful suit, polished shoes. He spoke well. He had a black man with a doctorate degree. Wouldn't they call him, oh, he thinks he's white? Right? Right? When did they call him that? When did they call him a type of Uncle Tom? He married a lighter skinned woman. Oh, how dare he marry that woman, right? See, that's what they would say today. I speak the truth, people. I speak the truth. They would probably call him something like that. Right? Right? Wouldn't they? People like Larry Elders is, oh, how do you say? They don't like him because, in spite of racism, he still stands, and they don't like that. He still stands and he presents himself respectable. I do believe that there is racism and that it's systemic and it's a system designed to make black people feel. But in spite of that, people, but in spite of that, it's what you do with what happens to you. It is what you do with what happens to you. And so there's people like Larry Elders, despite the politics, because a lot of people aren't into his politics, and that's okay too. It's okay to be different, but still be a man. Be a man. And I thought it was interesting when he gave his speech after the results. He didn't win, but I liked I liked his speech. I think he was still relatively positive. He ran a good race. But the people who helped him, the people in the audience, I didn't see any black people supporting him. I didn't see any black people in the audience. I saw there was an Asian, a Hispanic, but the rest were all white. Why is that? Why is it when you get a black man who is about, um, showing a positive role model, they don't like it? And as for Obama, he initially came across like he's the good young guy. He was in his 40s. He looked good. He looked young. He was slim. He had a wife and two kids. See, they had the veneer. They had the veneer of conservatism, black conservatism. And he was in the Democratic Party. And then he got the people behind him, but who did he represent? He did not represent black conservatism. But when he did start to speak out, when Trayvon Martin, the young 17-year-old boy who got killed, then all of a sudden they try to vilify Obama because then he was speaking, you know, truth. But when he covered for the what I call the alphabet family, everything is good again. See that? See, he's about this new alternative lifestyle living and mentality thinking that really run the show. That's being promoted. It's about destroying the family as a whole. So he passed certain laws to promote this alternative lifestyle that is really hurting the black community. It's hurting us. This loose living, this no family. And so Obama was promoted. He was promoted. But initially he came across like a type of Larry Elders. Like, look at me, I'm an educated black man, right? Obama's a lawyer. Now, I don't know whether Larry Elders has a doctorate. That I don't know. But I think he went to school. I think he's a graduate. But it'd be interesting to know. See, they initially show you that veneer of conservatism, of wanting education for your kids. There's no education really happening here in New York City. Oh, Chicago, people. Look at Chicago. You think Chicago's better off that they had Obama? Or is it worse? You know how many people, black people, are dying at the hands of other black people? And they're worried about racism? People, wake up. The real enemy is yourself. Because what you're doing with the stress is you're killing yourself. That is the usual. What is the cause of death of black men in America? Is homicide by the hands of another black person. And so this death cult that's being promoted in the minds of some black people is our demise. And as I say, it explains what happened last year, when I was getting this guy had groped me, and I asked for help with the person that was right there. There was a woman, very young woman, either late teens, early 20s, who was at the window taking orders, at a fast food place. And rather than helping me, she yells at me and allows this man to come to try to hurt me. She didn't have the instinct to help another fellow black woman like herself. That is what's happening, and that's what's killing black America. People like that young female. Was she hungry? No. She was dressed very nicely, very nice and clean, very attractive woman. Very, very pretty. A very dark-skinned woman, slender, petite, and she had a mouth like a sewer rat, and would not help someone old enough to be her mother, and yelled at me instead, and allowed this man to try to hurt me. I only said, please, I need help. Please call the cops. That's all I said. When a business company, when a business line calls 911, the police come right away. When you call on your cell phone, your house, they don't come. So I'm just letting you know, people, if you can get someone who's nearby, a business, hey, call the cops. They come, and they come quickly, because the cops are motivated by businesses, industry. They want to keep intact the businesses, big businesses. She didn't do it. So I had to try to get away from this guy. And yes, I did have my cell phone. It's my handbag. So I had to, because this man was after me. I had a stroller in my hand at the time. And I'm tethered to my dogs. I had my dogs in the stroller. And I had to get away from this person. It was a guy from a homeless shelter. He was a beggar. And when he didn't get money from me, he, at a pretense, was asking questions about my dog so that he could squeeze my behind. See how sinister some individuals are. They're sick. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. You okay? I have to get my dog's not feeling well. I'll get you some water, baby. Yeah. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. I'll help you. Yeah. So I don't want to stay on too long. I have to help my doggy. Um, yeah, so what's going on, people? We are being taught to hate ourselves, to not, to not help us. And they call a person like Larry Elders and Uncle Tom, but who spoke against Larry? But Obama. They went against, so they used a black man to go against another black man. So isn't Obama the real Uncle Tom? It's okay, baby. I'll get you some water. I'll get you some water, baby. I'll get you some water. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So isn't Obama the Uncle Tom by trying to destroy another black man? Isn't that what happened? Where is Obama in all this stuff that's happening today? All the violence that was happening last year in 2020 in these large cities. You didn't hear from him. What happened? What happened? He's quiet. He didn't do a damn thing. He's part of the system. He's part of the system of control to overthrow America, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And here you have a black man with a known identity. He's a true American. He's an American fellow. He's of his day. And then this happens. So, you know the term Uncle Tom? I read the book. It's called Uncle Tom's Cabin. Because I always heard that expression, oh, you're Uncle Tom. You're Uncle Tom. And I wanted to know what that name meant. Where did it come from? I read the whole entire book. Did you know Uncle Tom dies at the end because he was protecting a black woman? They ordered Uncle Tom in the book Uncle Tom's Cabin. It was an anti-slavery book. And they asked the character in the book, Uncle Tom, to whip this woman. She was a mulatto. She was a mixed race slave, slave of a light-skinned slave of black Hawaiian heritage, but still a slave, and ordered him to whip her. He said no. He said no. And so they killed Uncle Tom. But yet in history, you hear a lot of blacks throwing that term out. Oh, you're Uncle Tom. Oh, you're Uncle Tom. You know, the next time you hear someone say that, ask them, did you read the book? Did you know Uncle Tom saved the life of a black woman? A slave? What did you do? What did that woman do to me last year when I asked for help? She said no. Okay? So so should it be an Uncle Tom actually be a good thing? See, propaganda. See, these are propagandists. And they take this story was an anti-slavery book. It was a novel. And it was to expose the evils of slavery in America. It was during the time of slavery. And Harriet Beecher Stowe, that's the author. She wrote the book. And then now they say, oh, that's a racist book. Oh, that's racist. It's an anti-slavery book exposing the evils of slavery. And then they distort the character, the propagandists, to hate Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom was a married man with a child, and he was sold from his family. And yes, he was a very religious man. the character, highly religious. And so they make fun of that, him having a spiritual component to him. But in the end, Uncle Tom was a real man. He defended the life of a slave woman. He said, no, I'm not going to whip her. And for that, they killed him. Read the story, black folk, white folk, yellow folk, Hispanic folk. Start reading these books. And when you hear them, people calling someone a so-and-so, find out where that story comes from and read the story. Read the book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, and really learn what happened to Uncle Tom. How would you feel today if you lived in the time of Uncle Tom, during the time of slavery? Well, we know because it's post-slavery and we see what you're doing now. You would be the type of person that would have whooped that woman. That's what many of you would have done. You would say, okay, master, and whip the woman. But Uncle Tom said, no, I'm not going to whip her. I'm not going to whip her. So people, there are true heroes in our community who are emasculated. They take the man, the true black man, and they distort his character and make him look like a fool. People like Obama are the real fool, in my opinion. See, he's the fool because he is against his people, the black race, the America race. He is against this country. And they say that he and his wife, that is, I don't know. But remember what's her name? That comedian, Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers got killed. Joan Rivers, just before she died, she had officiated a gay wedding. So she was not anti-gay. She was just coming back from officiating a gay wedding. And she was going to the doctors. And a reporter asked her something, political question, about the gays. And so she retorts, oh, we already have a gay president right now, and that Michelle is a tranny. Well, one thing in Hollywood, rumors get around, and with Obama and Michelle, that is always, there's a lot of obscurification of their lives. Like there's no picture of Michelle being pregnant. There's no pictures. Where was Obama for all the missing years? And then he pops up and goes to Chicago and in a church, yet he's a Muslim. See that? He did the veneer to look like he's a black man from the black community and a Christian, but it's none of those things. See, he can be what he wants to be. But see, he's a liar, in my opinion, by obscurification of his true identity and deceive the black community to make them think he's something that is not. If he wants to be gay and she wants to be a tranny, that's their business. But to lie about it, to lie about where you're born, where all that, that's a problem for me. That is. But yet they used Obama, but yet they're not calling him an Uncle Tom. See that? They are distorting reality. Those who really stand for making this country a better place for yourself. That you don't have to walk around being a drug dealer. Have some self-respect.
Have self-respect for your body. Look outside in New York City. Look at how these guys are dressing. That is not leadership material. They're out of their minds. They're doing something to us. They're distorting our reality, and that is the real enemy, not um, old fat. What do you call it? Racism per se. Yes, there is racism. There are people who don't like black people and will harm. But see, now America is not a biracial country. It's multiracial, multi-ethnic. In my day, the main groups were white and black. But now you have a large number of Hispanics. Now there's more Hispanics than uh, non-Hispanic blacks. You have many races. And so the playing field is different. And so you have to help yourself. You have to do what works. But see, we're being brainwashed to like it easy. You think these rap singers, you know why they have that rap music? To destroy your mind. They want you to be a criminal and you fall for it. They want you to take the easy way. So you get a mother who's unmotivated, who just dotes her child, unsupervises them. Um, she didn't choose her man right. She's not marrying. She got kids and she's not married. That's a big no-no, ladies. No matter what race you are, that's a big no-no. A big no-no. And then you just cuddle the male child, give him toys, whatever. And then he doesn't learn real manhood. Manhood is not how many illegitimate children you have. Manhood is about taking on responsibility and staying when the going gets tough. It's about staying and persevering and not wanting the easy way out. They think the drug, what do you call it? The drug life, selling drugs is the easy way out, easy money. If it's easy money, it's death money. You want the easy way out. It's not, it's death. And you are the true hater of your own people, not white people. Yes, there are white people that don't like blacks. But who hates black people more are black people. Calling someone an Uncle Tom when they get a college degree. When you get a job. You know what? You know the other guy. His name is Professor Gates of Harvard University. He is the African American director of the Department of African American History. And he got in a situation with the police. And he was angry that they wanted to see his ID. He showed them the ID. He proved who he was, and that was his home. See, that Professor Gates, a couple of years back, um, he was coming back from someplace. He got a taxi to drive him home, but the door was jammed, and he asked the taxi person to help him open the door, and they bust open the door. A neighbor across the street saw this, not knowing who Professor Gates was, and just called the police. And they did share the phone call with the public, and she wasn't she was innocent. She said she didn't know what was going on, but she's being a good neighbor and just let them be aware, the police. And the police did come. He was in the house when the police came. He showed them the ID, but the police wanted him to step outside. And the police, he knows that when you go outside, you're at the hands of the police, and they can do anything to you. He already showed them the ID that this was his home, and what happened with that he needed to get in. He was coming from vacation or something, and the door wouldn't open, so he had the taxi man to help him in. And he took offense when the cop wanted him to step outside. There was no need him to go outside. See, this is where me and Larry Nadler differ. That's your home. You proved that it's your place. There's no reason to go outside. But yes, he could have gone outside, but anything could have happened still outside. But either way, or was I getting? Yeah. So with this Professor Gates, when he asked the cop for his badge number and name, the cop took offense and then arrested Gates in his own house. And he was mugshot and everything. And it was a big scandal. Now, one thing I thought was really interesting. Now, Gates, Professor Gates, he has a doctorate. He has a television. He had a television show. He talked about history and genetics. And he is someone of his prestige for one of the top schools in the nation, and a TV personality, and an educator, and a man with a PhD like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What happened? Well, they don't like Gates. They don't like Professor Gates because he's perceived as being an Uncle Tom because of his persona, because he's an educated black man with a college degree, with a doctorate. Isn't that something? So you are destroying the cream of the crop. And I speculate when that incident happened, it's Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were alive today and were, let's say, 50 years younger, they too would call MLK and Uncle Tom. Look at that. Hypocrites. You're a bunch of hypocrites. Wow. Well, it's very sad, people, what people really feel about themselves. And it's unfortunate that I'm disappointed that Nadler lost. But it's a wake-up call for all of us, blacks who do have college degrees, blacks who don't want to walk around with their pants hanging down, blacks who don't choose to do drugs. I've always wanted to live a life contrary to what society wanted me to be. I know how they thought of me growing up. I know they wanted me to think that I was a criminal, that I was someone that talked like this from the swamp. I knew what they thought of me. I was in private sector. I saw and I received a lot of backlash. And I think to really survive in America, you have to have thick skin. I'm a very sensitive person. But at least I never abused drugs or alcohol. I don't go out and do things with my body that with other people. I kept a very clean life. That's what I wanted for myself. I wanted to tell white America and black America that you can be a woman of substance, that you can say no and walk with your head up high. That's what I always wanted for my life. That in spite of racism, I wanted to be a lady. and carry myself like a lady. And I wanted a college degree. I wanted to prove to myself I could complete things and not give up. I wanted to give up plenty of times. But I stuck it out and I did graduate. I'm doing the best I can. I live in a beautiful high rise apartment that people, white, black, yellow, red, would love to have. Thank you, Cheeseburger. Yes, I did it. Every day is a battle, but it's a battle of the mind. Racism, sexism, nationalism, ism. It's a battle of the mind. That's where it is. It's how I respond. It's how I respond. People are always going to do things. How I'm treated by my family. I'm treated like shit. It's how I respond. I stay away from people who don't like me. And I've done them no harm. You have jealousies. You have jealous black people. You have jealous white people. You have jealous people that want to hurt me, that want to hurt you. Yeah, I'm sorry, Labby. Yeah, my little doggy. Yeah, I help you. Yeah, yeah, I gotta be going. Yeah, yeah, just gotta get this message out that you have things going on. The battle is the battle of the mind. No matter who you are, you know, they're out there. Oh, what are the messages? I gotta read the messages. Wait a minute. Okay, you wanna cover? I'll help you, baby. I'll get the message. I'll get you. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So look, the sun is being. I have to get ready now. I'm sorry, gotta cut it short now. But yeah, I couldn't read all your comments. But yes, the real battle is the battle of the mind. There's always some type of ism out there, but you can overcome. It's a daily battle, folks. So with that in mind, choose the life that you want to live, that you will always have opposition. Yeah. Thank you so much, Cheeseburger. I'm sorry I couldn't read all the notes. I just really wanted to get all the information out. Uh, Thank you all for your comments and your support. Uh, be you. Be you. And know when someone calls you a term, look it up and ask them, do you know the origin of Uncle Tom? Uncle Tom is actually the hero. How many black men out there will defend the life of a black woman from getting beaten up? How many? How many? How many women will stand up and protect their black man? How many? Okay? Case is closed. Who's the real Uncle Tom? Okay? So thank you again. Peace, love, and joy. I'm gonna get my day started. I have to take care of my little doggy right now. I think that he had an accident. Yeah, let me help my little baby boy. Yeah. So thank you again. Peace, love, and joy. Stay well. Use common sense with regard to your health. If you can't find one doctor that could help you, find another one. Find another one and listen to alternative news so you get a fullness of information and then you decide for yourself what is the best protocol for you. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.